State of Ohio has had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation and is prepared to go forward with sentencing today.
All right, Mr. O'Connor, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I have reviewed the pre-sentence report as well as the additional evaluations that were conducted in regards to this matter.
All right, before we get to the sentencing, I want to read the explanation of duties to register to Mr. Wyatt and ask him to place his signature on it, indicating that he's been advised of these duties. The county of conviction is Lake, 23 CR 047, conviction under 2907.05A1, gross sexual imposition. Paul A. Wyatt III, expected residence address 3663 East 144th Street, Cleveland 44120. You've been convicted of or pleaded guilty to a sexually oriented offense as defined in 2950.01, and you are a two-tier sex offender. You are required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish residency within 3 days of coming into that county, or if temporary domiciled for more than 3 days. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of education immediately upon coming into that county. If you establish a place of education in another state, but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state immediately upon coming into that state. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of employment if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in the calendar year. If you establish a place of employment in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. Employment includes volunteer services. You are required to provide proof to the sheriff, temporary lodging information, including the address and length of stay if your absence will be for 7 days or more. After the date of initial registration, you are required to periodically verify your residence address, place of employment, and or place of education in person at the county sheriff's office no earlier than 10 days prior to your verification date. If you change residence address, place of employment, and or place of education, you shall provide a written notice of that change to the sheriff with whom you most recently registered and to the sheriff in the county in which you intend to reside or establish a place of employment and or place of education at least 20 days prior to any change and no later than 3 days after change of employment. If the residence address change is not to a fixed address, you shall include a detailed description of the place or places you intend to stay, and no later than the end of the first business day immediately following the day you obtain a fixed address, you must register with the sheriff that fixed address. You are further advised in accordance with federal law, you must report any international travel to your registering authority no less than 21 days prior to travel. Failure to do so may subject you to criminal prosecution. You shall provide written notice within 3 days of any change in vehicle information, email addresses, internet identifiers, or telephone numbers registered to or used by you to the sheriff with whom you have most recently registered. You are required to comply with all of the above described requirements for the following period of time and frequency for a period of 25 years with in-person verification every 180 days. Since your expected residence address, as stated above, is located in Cuyahoga County, you shall register in person no later than 3 days after release with the County Sheriff's Office at 1215 West 3rd Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44113. Failure to register, failure to verify residence at specified times, or failure to provide notice of a change in residence address or other required information as described above will result in criminal prosecution. The next line says, you acknowledge the above requirements have been explained to you and that you must abide by all the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 2950. Mr. O'Connor, if you could have your client sign on the signature line below line 11, please. All right, as to the sentencing hearing, Mr. O'Connor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, in regards to sentencing, as the court aware, there are certain factors the court has to consider in determining what is the appropriate sentence here. In particular, there are certain factors we would ask the court to consider. is if there's substantial grounds in regards to mitigation. We understand that this mitigation is not a defense. It doesn't make his actions right. But we think it's important in knowing Mr. Wyatt in his past in regards to his substance use. Mr. Wyatt was raised by his parental grandmother for most of his life. As a child, he lost his grandmother when he was 13. That had a very dramatic impact on his health from there, in which, as a teenager, not knowing how to deal with stress, how to deal with loss, he turned to substance use. In the PSR and with Dr. Rinsberg, one can see, as he talks about it, how over time he began to let substance use control his life. He used to be active in sports, was potentially looking at college, and by the time he graduated, he was barely able to do so and was no longer pursuing any career in sports. Ultimately, his substance use got him in trouble in Cuyahoga County. Initially, they did consider him for a diversion program there. However, he was in need of help, more serious help, and ultimately when he picked up charges the next year, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. During this time, Mr. Wyatt has been clear to myself, to probation, to Dr. Rinsberg, to probation, that he needs help, and he knows he needs help. The day of the offense, due to the fact that he had still obviously not addressed his substance use, he smoked a joint once he was lost in Painesville, and was not of right mind when this all occurred. It doesn't make what happened that day okay, and he recognizes that, and he will never try to say it makes it okay. But it's something where we would ask consideration in that this is a man that clearly needed help and tried to get help even the day before, where he went to University Hospital. However, because he wasn't suicidal, the hospital turned him away. He went to Harbor Lights, and in order to try to get treatment dealing with his substance use, they didn't have a bed available, and so he was turned away again. We would ask, in that regard, for that factor to consider mitigation at that time. We'd also ask the court to consider is that when Mr. Wyatt got in the car that day, he never intended to harm anyone. He knows he can't change the past, and if he was of clear mind, I don't believe any of this would have ever occurred. Mr. Wyatt did not go with a plan to go assault anyone, cause harm to anyone, cause fear to anyone. But he recognizes that those were his actions that occurred, and he realizes there has to be consequences. But as far as in regards to sentencing, we'd ask consideration for mitigation, consideration to not impose anything on the RVO spec on this matter. Other factors we'd ask the court to consider is the defendant, to myself, to probation, Dr. Rinsberg, he's expressed remorse. You'll hear from him today in which he feels awful about this situation. He realizes, in my discussions with him, he realizes that he caused fear for this woman, and it's something that he never wished or intended to do, and he does feel awful about this. He realizes that he needs, whatever happens today, that when he gets the opportunity, he needs to get himself help so that this never happens again. One of the big things that caught my eye when going through the pre-sentence report and his report with Dr. Rinsberg is that he doesn't want to live this life. He wants to live a life where he's able to go home, hold a job, not bother anyone, not be in trouble with the law. He does not want to be that the person that is constantly in and out of jail or prison. But we would ask, in regards to sentencing, to also take that into consideration. In regards to sentencing itself, we would ask the court for a 3-year sentence. While we would wish we were in a position where he would be able to get more significant help, we recognize that that is not available here. But we'd ask that he be able to do a 3-year sentence. Upon his completion of his 3-year sentence, his intention is to get himself into more intensive care, get the help that he needs, so that he's never back here again, he's never back in any court again. But we'd ask the court to take all of that into consideration when making sentencing.
Thank you. Mr. Wyatt, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence in this case?
I just want to say I'm thankful that she ain't killed me. I'm sorry that this happened. You know what I'm saying, to you. And I'm just thankful that you didn't have no gun to kill me, because by right, you could have killed me. I was all the way out of my mind. You could have really killed me.
You haven't addressed the court, Your Honor.
You could have took, huh?
Let him talk. I'll handle this, okay?
What'd you say?
Never mind, okay?
I'm just thankful that they didn't kill me. The police didn't kill me. She didn't kill me. That's what I'm thankful for. Like, the situation happened. I'm sorry it happened. I apologize for everything that happened. The mental, everything that's going on right now. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Everything else I say would be sounding like excuses. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how I can show y'all or make it better. I don't know what to do but go to jail. But I'm sorry. You feel me? I'm sorry. That's not what I'm into. I'm not about to come out here to Lake County in the car and just mess with a older lady that's walking up and down the street going to work. That's not what I'm into. That's just not what I'm into, man. You can look at my history and everything. That's not what I'm into. I don't have no sex charges. I'm not no sex offender. I don't do none of that. I steal from stores sometimes. That's all I do. I'm just telling the truth. God, honest truth, man. I don't be into this knocking people down, snatching. I don't do none of this, man. I got lost on the freeway. But that's all I got. I'm sorry. I apologize to the family, everyone. I'm just thankful that the police officers handled the situation. The way they handled it, that I ended up dead. She ended up killing me. And one day, I'm still here amongst the living. I'm thankful because she had all right to kill me. She could have took my life. And I'm just thankful that ain't happened. God was with me. So thank you. That's really all I got to say is I'm thankful. I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry. I apologize. Sincerely, I do apologize that this happened to you, man. If I don't know what was it. I don't know if it was water, K2. There's no reason for me to get out the car of regular mind in the middle of the street and just get to acting a fool like that. I can't see how that comes, how anybody can look at it like, oh, this dude, his intentions was to come out here and do something to a lady that was just happened to be walking to work. Who gonna stop their car in the middle of the street and go crazy? Like, unless there's something going on. It's just obvious. Man, I don't know. But this Lake County, I was trying to go to Bedford. Me and my cousin was about to go shopping, man. I wasn't trying to come out here. I don't be into this coming out here with these people. I know y'all. I don't. Like I said, man, I just thank God that lady ain't killed me, because I would have killed me or probably hurt me if that was me or my grandmother or my cousin or something. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Geigerich.
Thank you, Your Honor. The victim, Susan First, would like to address the court.
I just would like to start with the fact that second time I saw Mr. Wyatt was when he was standing in front of a police officer, the first police officer I saw throughout all this. And 911 had already been called for him because a white woman had assaulted him. That white woman was me. That's when I finally got free from him choking me, because I got my hand free and I swung as hard as I could and I dropped to the ground. That was it. 2 guys came up and then they helped me. They chased him to where that police officer was. So on January 9th, my life changed.
I will read it, Your Honor. On January 9th, 2023, my life changed when I was assaulted while walking at lunchtime and my attacker grabbed me around the neck. He pulled me across the street at Jackson and Richmond while choking me and finally stopped at the side door of Chipotle. He told me what he planned to do and I pulled my hand free and started pounding on the door and screaming for help at that time. When he touched me again, I swung as hard as I could and hit him in the face and dropped to the ground. No one from Chipotle came to my help, but 2 men from Mr. Muffler came running across the street and yelling at the guy. They became my angels at this point and checked to see if I was okay before running after the guy. They chased him to McDonald's, and the next time I saw him, he was sitting on the ground in front of McDonald's with a police officer standing over him and several deputies and firemen in the area. I was asked to identify him twice, and 3 of the deputies walked me closer while keeping me behind, and then stepped aside to let me get a closer look. I made my statement with the deputy, while 2 men did the same while standing outside the vehicle. I was so grateful that they were willing to take the time to help me out and make their statements about the horrible incident that had just occurred. I was taken back to my place of work until a female officer came to pick me up and take me to the police station for a recorded interview about what had just occurred. It didn't feel real, even though I felt like I answered the same questions many times over. At the station, I was interviewed, which was hard, but they were very professional and tried to make it as easy as possible for me. I lost my voice for about 3 weeks, and it seemed like my entire life was scheduled around what was happening with the case involving my attacker or waiting to hear what was to come. I didn't go out much during that time and didn't even feel comfortable walking through the intersection where I was assaulted and had walked almost every day. My brother brought me pepper spray, and I still carry it whenever I'm walking with or without company. I hated being afraid to walk again and felt it necessary to carry that pepper spray. I often turned down invitations due to what I went through and just didn't feel comfortable. It took me about 4 to 5 months to get the nerve to walk through intersection, and I am feeling better about it now, still carrying the pepper spray. I was notified about the grand jury and couldn't bring myself to attend, and the interviewing detective spoke for me, that for which I was grateful. I didn't have a voice for those 3 weeks, but I still got a lot of calls from family and friends wanting to check on me. Seems like a lot of things were put on hold during that time as we were always waiting to see what my assailant's next move would be, plead guilty or going before grand jury. Every time I got a call regarding him, it was very seldom good news. My advocate was wonderful through all of this. And so it continues. Today is a pretrial. This is dated August 22nd, 2023. The subject decided he didn't want to work with his attorney anymore, so my brother Pat, Sherry, and I showed up at the courtroom, and there he was again. Judge O'Donnell kept control of the hearing, and the defendant the whole time we were there. All the defendant talked about was his drug problem and how his attorney was helping him. The judge explained to him that it wasn't his job, and his attorney was supposed to use the facts of the case and advise him of his best choices. When it was over, the judge told him he would be in the court the next day. Once the judge left the courtroom, everyone got up to leave, and as the defendant walked past us, he stopped directly in front of us and asked, "How are you doing?" It took us all by surprise and not in a good way. The deputy yelled at him and told him not to talk to us as well, at all. We were all shook up since we weren't expecting any contact at all. It took a while to work through, but that won't happen again. 8:23. Another hearing today. Supposedly he's going to plead guilty tomorrow morning. A time will be set for the sentencing, and my impact statement should be ready. Pre-sentence report will be done, and 9:15, and then 9:05 should be getting close to the end. So I sit and wait. 10:25. This is the last date I've received regarding the case sentencing hearing. I've received calls, cards, gifts from family and friends. I have come to realize how blessed I am and how many amazing people I have in my life. The incident helped me realize all of this, and I still can't believe how loved I have felt throughout this whole time. I have to thank God for giving me this gift of love from so many individuals. Most of all, I thank God every day for the gift of my beautiful daughters. He was certainly watching over me throughout all of this.
Thank you, Mr. Geigerich.
Thank you, Your Honor. state's not gonna belabor the point. Realize the court has, reviewed the pre-sentence investigation, is aware of the facts. State of Ohio is gonna entrust the court to fashion a sentence that's appropriate in this matter, and, we believe that anything less than actual incarceration will demean the seriousness of the offense. Thank you.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and the psychological evaluation, as well as the past evaluations, including Jones Wood Psychological Associates done in June of '03. I've reviewed the victim impact statement. I've listened to the victim, listened to Mr. Wyatt, listened to counsel. I've considered all provisions in 29-29-11, 29-29-12, and 29-29-13. And I'm going to determine you're not amenable to community control. Now, in reviewing the pre-sentence report, Ms. First didn't want to mention the things that were said to her. I read the things that were said to her. I can understand why she didn't want to restate those, because they were horrific. What you said, what you did, what you threatened to do. To somebody who was walking down the street, minding her own business, is horrific. You stated to me that it wasn't your intention, that you were going to Bedford or something to shop with your cousin or whatever it was. That you didn't intend to come to Lake County. You didn't intend to accost her on the street. But you did. And you, I think during your statement, blamed it on K2 or whatever it was, okay, that put you out of your right mind, but you're responsible for what you did.
Right.
Okay? If you put a substance into your body that got you high or out of your mind or whatever you want to call it, that's on you. Okay? You're responsible for that. You're responsible for the actions that follow that. Okay? And you indicate that that's not your history. And to a certain extent, you're right. You don't have any sex offenses, okay? But you've got a history of violence. You've got a history of theft. And about 8 years ago or so, you got an F3 grand theft in Cuyahoga County that you were placed on diversion for. In November of 15, by February of 16, by the beginning, so 6 weeks, 7 weeks later, you violate because you just didn't report. So you didn't perform anything with regard to the diversion. So it was unsuccessfully terminated. And 2 months after you got that diversion, you got a theft charge in Bedford, a theft charge a couple months after that with the RTA police, a theft in August in Shaker Heights, and then the big one, August 28th of 16, you get an aggravated robbery with a firearm spec and a CCW with a firearm spec. So in November of 16, you get sentenced to 5 years on the ag robbery with a 1-year firearm spec and a concurrent sentence on the F3 theft. So you went to prison December 6th of 2016, released September 5th of 2021, put on 5 years of post-release control. And reading from the the notes that were garnered from the Adult Parole Authority says that you were never in compliance and had many issues on parole, including having weapons, drugs, and being a violator at large, so you didn't report. So after your release on September 5th of 21, you had conditions that you had to comply with, that you complied with none of them, and in fact affirmatively violated the law beyond your obligation on post-release control. So you were given a sanction of 9 months in prison for a violation. That was April 26th of 22, released on December 30th of 22. So that was your sanction. You're back on parole, December 30th, 22. You were arrested on this one on January 9th of 23. So 11 days later, you get arrested. 10 days later. January 8th, there's a charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle, which there's an outstanding warrant issued for that, so that's a day before this. And then you come out here on January 9th, for whatever reason, lost or not lost, you come out here. Miss First is walking down the street, and you attack her. And you grab her around the neck and you choke her. You sexually assault her. And then, luckily for her, she garnered up the strength to whack you in the face with a fist and got away. And then, apparently, when the police happen upon you, you're talking about being assaulted by her, which is unbelievable to me. Now, as I understand things, Miss First works nearby where this happened and was a regular habit to take walks around, and this is the result of that walk. Luckily, unlike Chipotle, which alarms me that people in there saw this and did nothing, the people at the other establishment came out and chased you. That saved her, may have saved her life. Right? And you got caught, so here you are. Now, it was interesting to me that when you were talking at the beginning, you talked about how lucky you were that she didn't kill you. If she had a gun, she'd have killed you.
Or if I ain't kill her, I'm just happy that none of this happened. Man.
Right. But I think you kind of expressed, the overtone of your expression was you were more concerned and thankful that you didn't get killed than really concerned for what took that, okay? So there is no excuse for what you did. Mr. O'Connor said when you were 13, your grandmother died, okay, but that was 17 years ago. Everybody, if they're born with a grandmother, their grandmother dies. Everybody, if they're born with parents, their parents die, okay? But that doesn't excuse anything. That's not an excuse. It's not an explanation, okay? You've led your life in such a way that your concern has always been on yourself, what you could get, how you could get high, how you could, apparently, and by your own admission, you know, you've been a thief. You take things from other people. So your concern has been focused on you for your entire life. Now, there's people that have bad upbringings that don't do that. So it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse to blame your environment, okay? You're a product of your environment. The question is whether you're going to do anything to change so that you're not a negative product of your environment. So you can be a positive product of your environment. And you haven't done that, okay? So all this culminated in a woman walking down the street getting choked and sexually assaulted because of you, okay? And there's no excuse, and there's got to be accountability for it. So that's where we're at. So, if I didn't say it yet, I've considered all provisions in 292911, 292912, and 292913. On count 1, the kidnapping, I'm going to sentence you to a definite term of 11 years to an indefinite term of 16 and a half years in prison. On the repeat violent offender specification, I'm going to sentence you to 5 years, and that by law is consecutive to the 11 to 16 and a half. On count 2, gross sexual imposition, 18 months. That'll be concurrent. Count 4, receiving stolen property, 18 months concurrent. And count 5, assault, 180 days concurrent. Now, the indefinite portion of the sentence on count 1 is in the control of the Department of Corrections. You will go to prison. The Department of Corrections has criteria by which there's a presumption you should be released after the 11-year, the definite portion of that, but they can, depending on their criteria and your compliance with their criteria, keep you, but no longer than 16 and a half years. And as I said, there's a presumption you should be released at 11. So it's a total sentence of 16 years at a definite minimum, up to 21 and a half years on the indefinite side. And the costs are assessed. The remaining charges are dismissed. When you get out, you're going to be on post-release control for 5 years with conditions. If you violate the conditions, the parole authority could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. If your violation is a new felony, you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for that violation, the maximum of which is the greater of 12 months of the time you have left under your post-release control. Is there anything further from the state?
You just gave me, you just said how much, what you just
Is there anything further from the state?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Is
Thank
there
you.
anything further from the defense?
What did you say?
He gave you 11 and a half.
Mr. O'Connor, anything further?
Not for me, Your Honor. I do believe that
you say
Mr. White
that
had one
again?
clarification on the amount of years he's to serve.
A definite minimum of 16 years and an indefinite maximum of 21 and a half years.